Hey guys, Thomas here with TLFC, and today we're going to go ahead and do something a little bit different. We are going to go ahead and talk about why US soccer and the US men's national team sucks.
Let me tell you why I suck.
So obviously last night we had a terrible loss to Panama in the semifinal of the Nations League at home in SoFi Stadium with a terrible showing. I know a lot of people are really upset with the players, upset with the coach, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about some different things today, some reasons why I think we suck. So I'm going to cover three different subjects. The first thing is going to be affordability of these games. The second thing is going to be US soccer culture as a whole. And the third thing is going to be our general player pool. So thank you guys for watching another video. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. But without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about why I think US soccer sucks. All right, guys, so like I said, the first thing we're going to go ahead and talk about is affordability of these games. So as you know, the stadium was completely empty last night, and I personally looked into going to this game. I live about 2 hours away, and the cheapest ticket was $107 for nosebleeds in SoFi Stadium, which is a massive stadium. Nosebleeds are not great seats for an event like this, and $107 is absolutely insane. So like I said, I live 2 hours away. So that's just one way. It would take me another 2 hours to get home, and that's not really including LA traffic in the middle of the day and mid-afternoon, which is horrible. So it could take me even longer. And that would be $50 in gas, at least $50 to park near SoFi Stadium, plus a $107 ticket. And that doesn't even take into account food or commemorative merch, like a shirt from the game to remember the event by. So we're talking it would cost me alone $250 to $300 just to go to this game. I have a family of four. If I wanted to take my whole family, we're looking at like $450 in tickets, plus all those other add-ons. It's going to be $650 to $700 for a family just to go watch one of these events. So the first thing US Soccer needs to do is figure out these absurd pricing structures. How can anyone afford to go to a game like this at 4 o'clock on a weekday in Los Angeles? I'm a diehard soccer fan, and I couldn't justify going, and I wanted to justify going. How can the normal layman fan, when this is not our number one sport, it's probably our fourth sport, maybe our fourth sport. It's never going to be our number one sport, maybe never the second sport, or even the third sport. So how are you supposed to get fans, layman fans, to come watch this game and support our team? How are we supposed to establish any sort of atmosphere for our players, give them that 12th man vibe, and really help to push the team to perform and play better? Everybody knows you play better in a home field advantage, and we did not give them a home field advantage. And US Soccer certainly is not going out of their way to make inexpensive tickets to fill that stadium on a day where it's hard to fill it anyway, to give our team support. And to be honest, I went to Copa America this year, or last year rather, and I went and watched Brazil play Costa Rica. I spent less than $107 for one ticket to sit 10 times closer to the field to watch a 10 times better product. I don't think any of us can argue that Brazil is much better than us, and the Copa America is a much bigger, more prestigious tournament than Nations League. I spent less money to go watch a better quality product from closer than I would have if I went to watch the United States in a much less prestigious tournament. Make it make sense, guys. It really makes absolutely no sense. How are they charging such absurd pricing to go watch a game like this? A normal family can't spend $600 or $700, and a diehard fan like me didn't want to spend $250 to $300 to go to this game and enjoy the experience like I expect to enjoy the experience. It's honestly mind-boggling to me. If US Soccer expects to grow the sport in a country where it's not the number one sport, they have to make it affordable for everybody to go watch these games. They're going to get their money back if they sell 70,000 tickets to fill SoFi at a much cheaper price. Instead, they sold maybe a couple thousand. It looked so empty. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen, and it's reflected on the field. Our players have no motivation. They feel no support. You could see it in the flatness of our game last night. We played with zero conviction. We played with zero purpose. It was a horrible, horrible product. We need to make it cheaper for general Americans. That way more people are going to watch this game and not just diehards like me who also chose not to go. And I know a lot of you would like to go but might decide not to go based on that price point. We all want to go watch these games. They need to be accessible. They need to be affordable. It needs to be something everybody can go do. And honestly, without some sort of genuine atmosphere at this game, we're just doing a complete disservice to our players, our coach, everybody involved who loves the sport. How do we expect to see the sport grow if our players don't even feel any level of support? It's absolutely absurd. It's embarrassing. Honestly, I was incredibly embarrassed watching that game last night, looking at that stadium, for our players and for our diehard fan base who just loves the sport. So I would say that is our first reason why US soccer sucks, because US soccer does absolutely nothing to support the sport for the general American public. Even us diehard fans can't justify supporting the sport at that price point. So that's my number one reason for why US soccer sucks. Okay, so that's going to bring us to our second reason, my second reason for why US soccer and the US men's national team sucks, and that is that our general soccer culture as a whole is absolutely terrible. We have a terrible soccer culture in this country. And I'm not necessarily speaking about fans. I think the fans are great. I think the fans are what make soccer great in this country. So I'm not talking about fan culture or anything like that. I'm talking about the atmosphere, the culture, the general layout of our professional leagues in this country. And I'm speaking more specifically about MLS. MLS has a horrible system that does nothing to grow the sport in this country. They have to institute promotion and relegation. MLS is a closed league, obviously no relegation, no promotion, and if you want to join the league, ownership groups are paying absolutely insane prices to build a franchise and insert themselves into the league. I mean, look at San Diego Football Club, a club which I have decided to support, so I'm obviously not innocent in this myself. I'm supporting what I deem to be the problem with the country. But look at them. They spent $500 million, $500 million to insert a plastic franchise into San Diego when San Diego already had a USL side that was built from the ground up, built through the community, through the grassroots, through word of mouth, through people who just love soccer, who wanted to go watch soccer. MLS kills local soccer. Flat out, they murder it. They've killed so many USL franchises, so many clubs, or they just steal from USL and leave USL in the mud. These smaller franchises, these smaller clubs that play in the USL and other minor league associations in the United States have no hope of growing, have no hope of reaching the top flight unless they have an absurd amount of money. And this absolutely kills soccer culture. You guys can say all you want, that this is just how we do things in America, this is how we run our professional leagues, but the reality is the rest of the world does not run their leagues that way. And that is why we suck. We think we're arrogant. We think the way we do it is the right way to do it. And that's probably correct with some of our other leagues because we dominate the space in those sports. So there's really no comparison. But in soccer, we do not dominate the space. Obviously, we lost to Panama last night at home in a lowbrow, relatively unimportant tournament, the Nations League. We really need to follow a different model if we want to compete with some of these countries and some of these other nations. European countries build local teams. The sport is in every single community. They have hundreds of teams in these countries. And every single one of those teams has an opportunity to advance and can see a light at the tunnel to potentially reach the top of the top, the cream of the crop, and compete against some of the best clubs in the world. How can the sport truly catch on here in the United States when every single community is ostracized from having an opportunity to play with the big dogs, when there's only 30 professional MLS teams? This is honestly a massive country, huge country, giant population compared to some of these other countries that are far, far better than us. And I refuse to believe that this is an unattainable thing for the United States to achieve. Thankfully, as I'm sure many of you know, the USL did announce this week that they're going to be instituting relegation and promotion, and they are going to be making a top flight division. So this is a huge step towards potentially getting to that point. The reason for that is because it gives communities and potential investors a light at the end of the tunnel. They have an opportunity to build a team, invest, grow, and make it to the highest echelon of soccer in this country. Currently, USL teams are just stuck in that bubble of, semi-professional minor league teams, and they just have nowhere to go. Obviously, they're trying to change that, but that's a huge problem for stagnation and complacency in soccer in this country. We cannot grow unless all these teams have an opportunity to grow. That makes communities care. It makes the team grow naturally. It brings in investment money, because why would you invest in a USL team if you have no chance of ever competing in what is perceived as the highest league in the world, or not the world, but our country, MLS, obviously not the world. A little bit misspoken there. Thankfully, there are over 150 teams in USL now. I think it's like up to about 180. So there is a big group of community teams, but they don't have any hope at the moment. Thankfully, USL is trying to change that, but we see so many USL franchises go by the wayside, get replaced by an MLS franchise who come in and take over the market, and it absolutely kills the sport. People don't go support these teams, these lower grade teams. There's 144 teams in USL League 2. They don't get as much support as they would if everyone who went and watched these games knew that these teams had the potential to grow and become massive teams. And because of that, they don't get investment. If you don't get investment, you can't grow and become a massive team. And that honestly brings us back to MLS. These clubs, these owners, have zero intention of growing the sport in the country. They have every intention of monopolizing the sport. They want to be like every other professional sports league in the United States, where there's absolutely no fear of losing your investment money. Once you have a team, you're in. And because of the popularity of these sports, the value just grows. So they don't want to take the risk. And they're not taking this risk at the expense of the country getting better at the game. And don't get me wrong, I've been enjoying watching the MLS games that I've watched in the last few weeks. I never really watched it prior to this. I have been watching it because of San Diego Football Club, and it's been enjoyable. I've gone to games. I had a blast. It really was a good environment, a really fun time. But I can't get it out of the back of my head that I'm supporting something that truly throttles soccer in this country. It does not give it the opportunity to grow and be what we need to be to compete with the rest of the world. I think one of my biggest problems with MLS is they just see American soccer audiences as a money-making machine. You know, they just know that Americans love major leagues. So they made a major league, and everyone will just assume that is the highest level of quality of play. It probably is the highest level of quality of play in the United States right now. I mean, it definitely is. But I fear, honestly, that maybe MLS has painted themselves into this box because they brought in these owners, they've paid insane amounts of money to own these franchises, and why would they ever risk losing that ad revenue, that precious ad revenue, by voting for promotion and relegation? They want that closed league. They want to take advantage of all our money. They want to know that they have zero risk in their investment. And honestly, because of it, MLS has kind of turned into a little bit of a joke. I mean, it's an exhibition league. It kind of really is an exhibition league. It started with David Beckham. They brought in David Beckham. Everybody all over the country was going to games anytime LA Galaxy was in town. And they've pretty much followed this model. You know, they brought in the Thierry Henrys, the Gareth Bales, the Ibrahimoviches, the Gerrards, the Pirlos. Now it's Messi. Obviously, Messi's probably the best player to ever play the game. But it's absolutely a sideshow what we're seeing with this whole Messi situation. People are suing clubs when Messi doesn't show up into town. That's ridiculous. We should be watching the sport because we love the sport, not because we're going to see some superstar that everybody knows. And that is a core problem with the country, a core problem with our soccer system. We're just going to see superstars instead of going to see clubs we love. And the reason we don't love those clubs is because we haven't seen them fight through the bad times, haven't seen them rise out of a lower league and make it to the top flight. There's really not the passion that is necessary, and that comes with promotion and relegation. Honestly, to change it all, we really just need to start from the ground up. People need to be going to watch these games because they love the club, because they fought and watched the club from the beginning, watched them rise up. The community loves them because they're from the community, not because they were installed into the community and made a major league franchise. It needs to be a better system. We honestly need to get people all over this country in every division excited about seeing their local team who has a chance to grow, who has a chance to compete with everybody. We need to see communities excited for a chance to be in the top league and watch engagement, fan bases, and the sport grow as the team grows. That's really the major problem. So for me, promotion relegation, the closed MLS system, thankfully USL is trying to change that, but MLS needs to take a good hard look in the mirror and find a way to change. Honestly, nothing would be better for the sport in this country is if MLS found a way to merge with USL, Maybe MLS could just be the top flight, and then USL leagues are the lower leagues, and they need to institute relegation and promotion. And this brings me into my next point, our third point, about why we suck. All right, guys, so number 3, we're going to go ahead and talk about our player pool and how our soccer culture, all the things I just talked about, led and leads to our player pool not being as great as it needs to be to compete with the rest of the world. I know everyone's frustrated after watching that game. Everyone's frustrated with players. They're frustrated with the coach. But that really comes down to our root cause, which is our soccer culture. We genuinely are not as good as everyone thinks or hopes that we are. We're all optimists. We all think that we can have our day and go out there and win a tournament. But the reality is we do not have the quality or the competition to compete with these better clubs and countries. We are a little bit in denial of the fact that we just are not a good soccer nation. Our kids, our youth, have no opportunity to go watch a local professional team. Like I said, USL has a lot of them. Up until now, there's really been no hope for any of those teams. They have no chance of raising, and kids need to go watch a team that has the opportunity to be one of the best teams in the country one day. It provides that path for kids to see where they can go and how they can reach the top. And also, we're all upset with this pay-to-play model. If every team in this country had investors, was well-funded, was run on a promotion relegation system, all these clubs would have youth systems. They'd be funded by the investors. They'd be funded by the teams. That eliminates the pay-to-play. Any kid who has the ability to play on these teams is already funded by the team, by the club. It eliminates that issue. They have an opportunity to go through a club's youth system, become better, get recognized, move up to the first team, get recognized on the first team, and move up through the ranks of the professional system. We desperately, desperately need this. We have nothing really in place like this. I know some clubs are trying to do it. Some of our MLS teams do have youth systems, but the reality is there's not enough of it. There has to be tons of it. It has to be in every community. It's a huge country. We need 180 youth systems attached to professional soccer clubs. Now, don't get me wrong here. We do have some very, very talented young players playing in clubs all over the world, but how many of those players do we actually consider to be world-class soccer players? The truth is we probably only have one, Christian Pulisic, and probably a lot of the rest of the world would not agree with that, but they can all pound sand. I think we can all agree that Christian Pulisic is a world-class player. He's showing that day in and day out in AC Milan this year. And honestly, look at the path he took. He played club soccer growing up, which could have been better, could have been a better system, could have been playing in, a youth system where he sees promotion and relegation, where kids are sharpened by the knife every single day because they have to be good to compete and stay at the club. But he left the United States at 15 years old, and he was pretty much molded by his father, who played professional indoor soccer his whole life, and his father understands what it takes to be truly world-class and what it takes to compete in world soccer. So he arrives in Dortmund, where the standard is 10 times higher. Every training session matters. Every game matters, because if you lose, the club fails. And if the club fails, you get relegated. We must have that same level of pressure for young players here in the United States, where if you're not performing, you lose your job because the club cannot afford to lose its place in the league. That's where all the money comes from, right? And that's just the reality. When you have that iron sharpening iron mentality, where every single day, where every single training session, every single game, every single point matters, it changes the mentality of players. Here in the United States, in the MLS, there is zero fear of relegation. Players get complacent. They don't have to go out to every training session and fight like their lives depend on it. And that's why those teams and those countries are better than us, because every player they have every day is competing for their spot and fighting like everything in their world relies on that one day, that one practice, that one shot, that one goal, that one game. And, I don't really want to knock any of our players, because I can already hear the comments in the back of my head. Who are you to criticize these guys? You'll never make as much money as them. You'll never be as good as any of them ever were. You never were as good as any of them were. These are all true statements, but it doesn't take away from the fact that We could be better if we held people to a higher standard here in this country. Honestly, I do think, thankfully, we are starting to see that shift where a lot of our better young players are seeking that uncomfortable situation where they have to go compete every single day, because a lot of these guys are moving to Europe and playing those systems where you really do have to work your hardest, or you're just never going to see the field because the club can't afford to risk putting you out there. But guys, just imagine with me for one moment if we had that same system here, where players were uncomfortable every single day here and had to fight every single day for their spot. Imagine where those players would be when they finally chose to make that jump to go play in Europe. Or in a perfect world, because of how competitive things get here, they never even have to make that jump to truly become a world-class player or to play in a club that has a little bit more and means a little bit more. Honestly, until we have that level of intensity here in the United States, we're just never going to see players that are good enough to compete with players who do this every day from the age of 7 or 8 when they're getting into these club systems and they're competing to be in the best clubs and play for the best clubs in the world. It is insanely competitive. Obviously, everything's competitive here too, but there's just that different dynamic that we need here to really get these kids motivated and ready to play at a higher level. We just don't have the players to compete. We're not as good as we think we are. Don't get me wrong. I love watching all our guys play all over the world, but it's just not enough. I mean, look at it. We're recruiting dual nationals who grow up playing in these systems because they're better than the players we're producing here. Don't get me wrong. This is not a knock on dual mats. I love dual mats, and to me, they're as American as anyone, as American as me, American as you. Has nothing to do with that. But let's be real about some of these guys. They're choosing to play for the United States because they're not good enough to play for the nation they grew up in. And they're still better than our guys. They're great. I'm so glad that these guys have chosen to play for us. We honestly need them. Look at what they do for us. Where would we be without them? And at the same time, look where we are with them, losing to teams like Panama. So something has to change. This is just the reality of our player pool as it sits right now, guys. We're just not good enough. We need to foster a better culture, a better structure to make better footballers. It's really that simple. We're out here scrounging for talent all over the world and domestically when we could be finding a vast majority of these players domestically. We could be breeding incredible soccer players that stay home, compete every day, play for a really competitive league with promotion and relegation where things are taken a lot more seriously. But instead, we find ourselves getting knocked out by the Trinidads of the world in the 2017 World Cup qualifiers. We find ourselves in the round of 16, scrounging, battling our way to get into the round of 16 in a World Cup, getting knocked out in the first game and being completely dominated. We find ourselves losing to Panama at home in SoFi Stadium in the Nations League semifinal. And then after we lose those games, we blame the players. We blame the coaches, when in reality, we should all be blaming ourselves for fostering a terrible soccer culture that leads to this. If we don't foster the correct soccer culture and truly build from the ground up, make everything more competitive, eliminate pay to play by having these youth systems, what are we doing? We're just going to be stuck in this soccer purgatory for decades, guys. I honestly believe if we foster the correct culture, we can become the powerhouses that we all want to be in this sport. We all just got to take a little bit of accountability ourselves and demand that we run things the way the rest of the world runs them, because the rest of the world is kicking our butts. We suck. Hence the title of the video. I'm sick of sucking. We got to get rid of the arrogance and we got to find a way to conform and be better at the sport that we all love. So yeah, hopefully change is on the horizon. Hopefully this big USL announcement this week truly changes the culture of this country. Hopefully teams start building. Hopefully communities start caring because they have something to truly care about. They have a light at the end of the tunnel where their team could be one of the best teams in the world. I do think we are going the right direction, but at the end of the day, all these owners, MLS owners, USL owners, US Soccer, the guys who run it, all need to look in the mirror and realize that we can't do things the way we want to do them. We got to do things the way everyone else does them. because they're kicking our butts. So right now, guys, all we can really do is dream about the growth of the sport, dream about the growth of our club culture, and dream about actually winning, because I know you guys are like me. We Americans, we just want to win. And somehow we got to change things so we can start winning, because I'm getting sick of this.
I don't want to get paid to lose. I want to win!
All right, guys, so I know that was a little bit long-winded. I appreciate you sticking around if you made it to the end of this. Please let me know in the comments. I kind of expect to get a lot of hate on this one. I hope not, but I had to get it out there. I really wanted to say how I feel about our soccer culture, and I just hope we can get things going the right direction. Like I said, I think we can, but that's yet to be seen. Anyway, thank you for watching another video. Please have a great day. Have a great week. We will see you on the next one. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.